Masarap yung ganito kaburan. Hindi ko ma-distract yung ibang nilala. Saan po rin kaya nito? Headset. Ito bila. Magkaibihin sa Sige po, kuya po.
Oke. Standby, oke. Moderasi. Suara bocor. Pak Nahar mau buka dulu?
Ya, nanti saya cuma say hello aja terus lanjut dengan.
Oke.
Saying that, many of you tend to say that, construction industry is facing a serious problem.
Raisa. Oh, iso. Hello everybody, good morning. We are waiting for other participants. We still have 27 in here.
So this is very important. So
Hello everybody, good morning. I think it's better to start the session now because now it's 10:05 and I think Mas Haristiawan, our moderator for the session, is ready, and also the lecturer, Ms. Khaerunnisa, also ready with us now. So I think it's better to start now. So Mas Hari, Ibu Khaerunnisa, are you ready?
Absolutely, Pak Nahar.
Okay, so for all participants, please enjoy the session, and the session will delivered by Ibu Khaerunnisa with moderator Mr. Haristiawan. So for Mr. Haristiawan and Ibu Khaerunnisa, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Pak Nahar. Good morning to all the participants. How are you today? I hope you enjoy this morning, and thank to God that we have this session, the third day of international course, Biochemco, Borobudur International Online Course on Heritage Material Conservation, held in year of 2020. Dear heritage expert, practitioner, heritage conservation staff all around the world, which is I read from the committee. There is participant from Italy, Ecuador, South Africa, China, Egypt, Malaysia, Australia, Switzerland, Philippines, and Vatican also. Thank you for joining this workshop. And our workshop today, our international course today, starting this morning with a lecture from Ms. Khaerunnisa from the University of Atmajaya, Yogyakarta. The title of this courses in this morning will be Icomos Emerging Professional Working Group and Material Conservation. Okay, dear all participants, before I start the session with Mr. Khaerunnisa to present the presentation, I will read the CV of Ms. Khaerunnisa. Ms. Khaerunnisa is Icomos, also from the Icomos Indonesia, also assistant professor, and the educational background, starting with the Bachelor of Engineering on the Architectural and Planning, and then continue with the Magister of Engineering, Sustainable Energy and Environment Engineering, and Ms. Khaerunnisa also the Ph.D. from the Osaka University, Japan, on Sustainable Energy and Environmental Engineering. Okay, before Ms. Khaerunnisa starting the presentation, I will divide this morning session with two sessions. First session will be presentation from Ms. Khaerunnisa, and then the second session will be discussion. And I would like to review again the objective of this international course will be disseminate the result of study on the development of method and technique for cultural heritage conservation in Indonesia, which you are already know that also this international workshop is held by the Borobudur Conservation Office. In the previous session and also in the next session will be a workshop and also the laboratory session by the staff of the Borobudur Conservation Office. Okay, starting this morning session, I will invite Ms. Khaerunnisa to present the presentation, and thank you to all the participants. For Ms. Khaerunnisa, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mas Hari, and thank you very much for all the participants. Let me share my screen first. Okay, have you already seen my screen?
Yes. Yes. Already clear.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good night for everyone, because I heard that the participant is from all over the world, so it's an honor for me to give a presentation about emerging professional working group of Icomos International, and also I would like to give you a presentation about the material and cultural heritage conservation in Indonesia, which is it was part of my doctoral thesis. Okay, thank you very much for Mas Hari that have introduced my background. As it mentioned before, that I'm the assistant professor at Universitas Atmajaya Yogyakarta currently, and I'm also the member of Icomos Indonesia since 2008. It's quite new and even newer. I'm also the EPWG Asia Pacific Communication Officer since 2020 because Icomos also developing the EPWG sector. So we will introduce you about what is EPWG. And my research interest is on cultural heritage recovery, especially post-disaster. Okay, what is Icomos? Icomos is an abbreviation of International Council of Monument and Site, but it's not merely about the monument and site, but it already developed into several measures that very interesting. And the objective of Icomos is to further the conservation of cultural heritage in their tangible and also intangible aspect. In the Article 2 of Icomos, they have one principle that Icomos members should advocate and promote the conservation of cultural heritage and transmission to the future generation. So the EPWG is a kind of group for emerging professionals that one way that has been think carefully by the Icomos members or transmit the cultural heritage conservation practices and lessons to the future generation. So basically, this is the structure of Icomos. Icomos consists of divided by region. We have Asia Pacific region, America region, European and Arab States region. Each region, they have national committee, and each national committee, they should be EPWG that has mission to transmit the knowledge that have been learned before by the senior member to the younger member. So EPWG is kind of a working group that consists of young member of Icomos. So, I'm sorry. So every Icomos member should join International Scientific Committee. What is International Scientific Committee? Beside the regional group of Icomos, we also suggested to join the International Scientific Committee. International Scientific Committee is a vehicle which Icomos bring together to develop certain topics.
Jus apa Tante Mili? Limbing. Oh.
Certain topic in the cultural heritage. So Icomos expect the ISC to be heart of the scientific inquiry to exchange their domain. We have 29 international scientific committees, so it really reflects to your own interests. So you can meet a lot of people that have the same interest in cultural heritage, such as the cultural heritage post-recovery or cultural heritage on stone or fortification and military heritage, something like that. And you can develop networking, and also you can, under the ISC also, we develop also a kind of mentoring because they also encourage to exchange knowledge between the members. So what about Icomos Indonesia National Committee? Icomos Indonesia, basically we provide platform to communicate among the Icomos members. But nowadays, we also extend our role not only for Icomos member, but also to promoting the cultural heritage to all, organized by Icomos Indonesia. Recently, we have held 4 webinar series that has been hosted by Icomos Indonesia. And we also have the Facebook page. Maybe you can search Icomos Indonesia, so you can get updates from Icomos Indonesia, mostly about the webinar. This webinar is aimed to promote the exchange knowledge of the member, and also to promote the cultural heritage practices to all the people. And so what is EPWG? EPWG is the result of Icomos General Assembly in New Delhi on 2017. We initiate the Emerging Professional Initiative. The Emerging Professional Initiative is meant to be one media for the young professional to learn from the senior professionals. And the aim of emerging professional is to maintain the Icomos scientific relevance for future generations. So we can underline the future generation. And also to integrational engagement to ensure the organization continuity. So the regeneration also, we also hope that emerging professional working group can do the taking part of the regeneration, and also sharing of Icomos ethical stance during the early stage of education. So, but in Indonesia, we just started like couple months ago, the initiative. So we still in very early stage of activities. So, and as I mentioned before, we also divided the emerging professional working group by region. We have 5 representative of communication officer, like Asia Pacific, Arab state, Europe, Africa, and also America and Caribbean. And basically, we are working in the background about to support the EPWG activities, such as managing the data, managing the webinar, and also create toolkit, and also broadcasting. Yeah, basically doing many things in the background. And the composition of EPWG. Now we have like ideally, every national committee should send at least one representative to EPWG. And also one scientific committee should also send one representative to EPWG so that the regeneration can work perfectly. But nowadays we have like 78 among 107 national committee and 23 among 28 ISC in the EPWG and one working group. In total, we have EPWG member is 102 EPWG members. And what kind of key responsibility of EPWG representative? EPWG representative hopes to have active participation in monthly EPWG teleconference. So EPWG work together very closely. Like once in a month, we have a meeting to discuss what kind of activity that we can develop together by region or internationally. And also establishing internal emerging professional group within the respective national committee. In Indonesia, it's not official yet, but we have already formed the emerging professional group that consists of young member and also senior member, so that the mentoring transfer of knowledge can work inside the EPWG group. And also report to EPWG on their committee EP initiative and activities. So when we create activities, so we can report it to the committee so we can make a notes and report, and also reporting to the international EPWG. And yeah, basically we can contribute more when we involve in the EPWG, especially the fresh idea from the young professional is very welcome in EPWG. So who should involve in EPWG? Every individual member of Icomos who is student or in the early stage of his professional career can join EPWG. It is very active group, working group, because we have a target of webinar. We have also target of reports that we can disseminate to other member. And the most interesting thing is we can have mentoring with the senior members of Icomos in our own national committee and also in our ISC. And so this is the engagement of EPWG. We have mentorship, membership policies, and opportunity to share through the EPWG communication network. And we utilize the internet nowadays, so it's very effective and not really time consuming to work on EPWG. But unfortunately, in Indonesia, only one representative of EPWG joined the international EPWG. So we really encourage of all the participants, if you really interested to have kind of transfer knowledge, mentoring, developing your knowledge between the among the senior members and to the young members, so we can learn from the past. I really encourage of the participant. I know that all the participant has a good consideration of cultural heritage to join the Icomos International, and also through your national committee. And for the young member, it will be very welcome if you could actively work on EPWG group. This is our accomplishment of EPWG. We are pioneering webinar series for Icomos. Previously, the knowledge transfer from Icomos is only passed through the offline meeting, general assembly that we met only once in a year. But nowadays, recently, because the pandemic condition and also the idea of young member that they can fluently use the technology, it is very helpful for senior member to share their knowledge to the younger member through the webinar. So we initiated the webinar series, and usually like almost 200 people join the webinar series, and it's very interesting, like culture, nature and journey, and also we have heritage and climate change, and we are also talking the heritage in the future. So this really require the young and fresh idea from all of EPWG members. So this is our Icomos Indonesia EPWG action plan. Previously, we had a meeting about what should we do under the EPWG to work on cultural heritage. So we had a meeting, and also we invite the resource person from Borobudur Conservation Office to find out the gaps of cultural heritage conservation in Indonesia. So we conclude into 4 points. First is we need the monitoring and evaluating World Heritage asset, and also transfer knowledge from project-based experience, because sometimes we repeat the mistake from the other project because we don't have the good report on previous project. So we keep repeating the same vulnerability. So those kind of things we can avoid use by the transfer knowledge, proper transfer knowledge. And also there is an idea to do the expert mapping to support cultural heritage management. The background of this point is sometimes the cultural heritage project, they need some expert, but we don't know who to contact, where to contact the expert, whether Indonesia has the expert on those kind of field. So if all of the cultural heritage interest practitioners join the Icomos Indonesia, it will be very possible for Icomos Indonesia to become a platform of experts, so we can inform what kind of expert to what kind of needs of the project. And also the last but not least is increasing awareness on cultural heritage conservation. If we can see from the proportion of the Icomos Indonesia member, it's very limited young member in Icomos Indonesia. So the regeneration of Icomos Indonesia is kind of endangered. And it is very important to increase the awareness on cultural heritage conservation in the society. Not merely they have to join the Icomos, but at least we can do the regeneration process on cultural heritage conservation. Okay, so the next is the material and the cultural conservation. I get some help from my colleagues from Pusat Dokumentasi Arsitektur, Miss Ria, who helped me to arrange the presentation. And okay, we can think the heritage is kind of artifact or a thing or asset, but we can also heritage is kind of system. The system that is it has elements, and the elements act as a whole to find its balance of resilience. The capacity of system, it will be it an individual, forest, or a city, or economic, and it always change. But something in heritage is persistence, and it also includes adaptability and transformability. So let me explain you more about the system of system in heritage. In this slide we can see the Bawah Mata Luo landscape. If you can see one house in Bawah Mata Luo, we can this is based on my interview to the one family member in the Bawah Mata Luo. I asked them, is it possible if we can make one, or if we can extend one house in your village? And they said that it is very difficult nowadays, because they need to have rituals, and they have to give a lot of, they have to cook a lot of pork, and basically they don't have proper wood from the forest, because nowadays they don't work on the they don't planting the trees anymore. They work on tourism activity, more to tourism activity. And also they have they need the skilled mason and fabricated material. In this case, they don't have fabricated material, all from the nature, except the roof, the cover of the roof. So the existing cultural heritage is consists of a lot of components. If we want to understand that the existing cultural heritage is not only an artifact, but it consists of a lot of elements, and each element has its own system. Such as if we want to have such kind of good wood, very big wood to build the Nias house, so we have to plan like 25 years prior when we need to build the house. So those kind of sustainable system and holistic system we should think previously before we want to talk about the material conservation, because the material conservation is not only merely the material itself, but it involves wider and bigger system behind those material itself. And this is the sample of restoration of Bank Indonesia Museum. They do the restoration on 2005, and it consists of so many elements. First is they want to replace some broken floor. This is the prior. The left one is the prior restoration, and the right one is after the restoration. If we can see this kind of this looks like a very simple work of tail replacement, but it's not. We have to find the perfect color. We have to find the manufacturer that can produce the tile in the previous way. And okay, this is also the marble floor restoration. The process is not kind of simple. We have a lot. The damage and identifying the significance, and also create the guidelines so that the consultant can do the restoration based on the right guideline of conservation. And this also very interesting. I'm sorry, this should be the plaster restoration of Indonesian Bank Museum. Firstly, they have to determine the composition of the plaster material. It is very important to do because the bank itself built in 5 stages. So the plaster and the material can be very, very different due to the development of the time and the development of technology. So they have to bring the sample of the plaster to the Borobudur Conservation Office laboratory to understand what kind of material inside the plaster. And also for the finishing, they do the painting with the silicate material, not with the roller. And also they use the brush technique, not the roller, so that the surface result will result the same as the original. And this another restoration of the relief wall. In the relief wall, it is very challenging because the manufacturing technique is unique. So we have to learn from the history first, what kind of the manufacturing technique that has been implemented in the building previously from the historical reports. And from that report, we understand that the Van der Post and Kravel, the manufacturing technique is use the cast cement system with a mold. So they create the mold first and then restructure the broken columns. This is the stained glass restoration of Indonesian Bank Museum. This is according to the information from Miss Ria. This is the most difficult part because the very unique mosaic and the very unique stained glass, and the stained glass is using the brush painting technique. So if we not really carefully clean the stained glass, the painting technique will also disappear with all the algae. And some of the glass cannot be take off from its place, so they have to restore and they have to do the on-site restoration technique that it takes a lot of time, and also it takes very good it needs very good skill of the workers. And this is another example of wall tile restoration in Indonesian Bank Museum. Yeah, it looks simple, but to get the same color, the green, those kind of green color is not very simple, especially because the fabric, the original manufacturer has already stopped their production in Netherlands. Nevertheless, and also it will be very expensive and not meet the required the budgeting of the government. So they decide to do the to produce the material in Indonesia, and this is the process of the to recover the to produce the material. And since the original tile factory in the Netherlands has stopped production, it was a challenge to make the tile in Indonesia, especially to get the same color as I mentioned before. And only 40 of 100 tiles that match the original one. So it's only 40% of the tiles we can use during the restoration. And this is another example of a manual church roof restoration. We use they use the syrup roof. Syrup roof is made of the wood. But nowadays, those kind of syrup roof is no longer available in the market. We have a thinner one. So to reach the same thickness, they make double layer of the syrup roof, and they apply it to the roof of the Emmanuel Church roof during the restoration. So a lot of adjustment we need to make during the restoration. So I think it also raised the question, is that we are doing the conservation or imitating? Maybe we can also give criticism on this. And this is the other restoration process of Historia Cafe. They replaced the plaster of the Historia Cafe. Actually they use the same composition of plaster. They use Bligon plaster that consists of red brick and cars and also cement, or I forgot. But even we use the same composition of material, the result is very different because the quality of the material is not the same as the previous one. So it is very challenging to recover the only the plaster itself. Okay, this is the process of the restoration. Mainly that I mentioned before is the recovery on colonial buildings, and it led by the government. And for this kind of restoration, they usually use 3 steps of process. First is preparation. The preparation takes a lot of effort. First, they have to remeasure and then redraw and identification of the damage, and also research the history and also its significance. And after all of those preliminary research has been done, they have to make the preservation guidelines. And the next, they have to collaborate with the consultant, architectural consultant, to do the planning. Then the consultant can do the drawing and also do the budgeting. And the other challenge in budgeting is because we base on the certain budget on based on the national budget. So it is very difficult to get the very original material, such as we can buy from Netherlands, directly from Netherlands. It will be very expensive and not meet the budget. And the last part is the implementation, such as material procurement or production, implementation, and also quality control is very important. This is the quality control is a key point of the process of the restoration in uh, government lead restoration. And this is the example of the assessment kit. They do it very carefully when we want to do the restoration. They use this kind of assessment kit so that we can understand the shape and the measure and also the material very carefully. And it takes several time to accomplish the document, so the document can be used as the guidance of restoration by the consultant. Okay, so from the government lead restoration, we have some challenge, of course. For colonial building, basically, it is challenging to find the same material as its original one. The availability of materials sometimes has different quality, so that even though we apply the same composition, the result not merely the same. And to produce the material locally, it takes effort to get the similar quality, such as thickness, color, because we don't prepare it to do the we don't have the data what kind of the exact color. We don't have the engage we're not engaged the manufacturer prior the restoration. We don't have those kind of systems, so that it is very difficult in timely manner to do the restoration based on the government budget. And the best practice of the government lead the restoration is first the effective coordination among the stakeholders, because it was facilitated by the government. And the second is we have appropriate review on the history and its significance. And it is very important for restoring the cultural heritage. And so that we can make sure the restoration is on the right track. Okay, so that's it's not the recovery. That's the restoration from that mainly led by the government. The next presentation is about the cultural heritage recovery, but based on home-driven approach. We know in Indonesia that not all of the cultural asset that is qualified as the cultural heritage is labeled as cultural heritage. There's a lot of factor of those kind of eligible cultural heritage is not yet labeled as cultural heritage. First, we have limitation in the expert that can examine that can do the justification whether this cultural heritage or not. In one city, we have only one team. We call it TACB, Tenaga Ahli Cagar Budaya, and those kind of team should give review to a lot of cultural heritage buildings. So it takes a long time to and long process to finally decide one building as cultural heritage. And the second one, what I found in the Yogyakarta in Kota Gede is they have an incentive system to people who can preserve the cultural heritage, but some people also have difficulty to to get those kind of incentive, because the incentive is belong to the tax office, but the policy itself is published by the Department of Culture, so it's different body. So those kind of different body sometimes not really well coordinated each other, so it make confusion in the societal in the people level. And so that most of the privately owned building that maybe might be qualified as cultural heritage is managed by the people itself. And this is the research that I have delivered on 2006 or 7, and after the earthquake, or after the Yogyakarta earthquake. Okay, the Kota Gede was the former capital of Islamic Mataram Kingdom in 16th century. Previously, they have palace and part of the royal feature, but nowadays is merely they only remain the graveyard and also the settlements. It is also well known of beautiful Joglo houses and homemade silver industry. It's prior to the earthquake. This is the image of Kota Gede. Okay, we have this is the graveyard, the red brick and the white brick. Also, it's very unique. It's mix between Hindu and also Islamic culture. They have mosque, but the culture, but the style of the gate is very close to the one that we have in Bali. Okay, so after the earthquake on 2006, it gave a lot of damage to all of the Joglo houses. And this is the damage of the houses, the Joglo houses. Most of them are heavily impacted by the earthquake. Only 19% is slightly cracked. Okay, so this is the characteristic of complete Joglo houses. I said complete because nowadays the Joglo houses is not. Previously, the Joglo houses is belong to one family. They have pendopo. This is kind of a reception room to greet the guests, and this kind of room, this kind of place is semi-public area. It's open and semi-public area. And this is dalam. Dalam is the living place. And they have also gandok. It's also part of the living place. And they have the service area at the back side. And as the time change and the family member also change, in Indonesia, we inherited the house to our children, to the children. So usually the Joglo houses is divided into several parts prior to the earthquake. And previously the Joglo houses belong to one family member, and nowadays it belong to several family members. Sometimes they divide it like this, like the dot lines. Sometimes there's a lot of type of division of the Joglo houses. It depends on the number of the children. If they only have 2 children, so they divide the Joglo houses into 2, something like that. And after the earthquake, because in Indonesia we have a very strong local wisdom, we call it gotong royong. They used to work together to clean the environment. And after the earthquake, it also happened in Kota Gede. In Kota Gede, they clean all the debris in 1 week. So it means that also the cultural heritage asset also being cleared in 1 week. And this is very important and crucial for cultural heritage because before the earthquake, the privately owned cultural heritage asset is not properly have the proper database. So the rubble material is very important to recover or restore the houses to the prior condition or to the original condition. But the clearing debris after the earthquake is happening very fast, the first week. So most of the rubble has already disappeared within 1 week. And this is another questionnaire that I give to the Joglo houses owners, and whether they use the Japanese house expert to rebuild the houses after the earthquake, or just use ordinary carpenter. In the term of the after the earthquake, a lot of people need to rebuild their house very quickly so that they back to their normal condition. Expert, because it's very limited and no information circulated who is the expert, who is not the expert. So the available carpenters or available mason is highly involved in the recovery. So so it can be seen that engaging ordinary mason in the privately owned cultural heritage houses recovery framework is very important. That mason need to have the knowledge of cultural heritage, at least the local cultural heritage. And it also impacted to the result of the recovery option. We can see that this kind of they apply the new material and also new technique. They use the reinforced concrete instead of the fully brick structure. Sometimes they mix between the new material and traditional Japanese technique. Sometimes they only imitate the shape of the building. They use the new material and also new Japanese technique, technique, but still in Japanese style. But some of them also do it traditional way, like traditional material and traditional technique. But some of them combine also traditional material, but using the new technique like reinforced concrete. And we can see that even in pendopo, most of the pendopo has been collapsed. But when they do the pendopo recovery, they can only rebuild the pendopo into the Japanese house style. But we can see the other part of the Joglo houses has been restored in a non-Japanese style after the earthquake. So it is very important that there is a tendency that the use of the ordinary mason could lead to has tendency to also have a non-Japanese style recovery after the earthquake. Okay, so in Japanese style instead, it's very, very low. It's under 50% of the building has rebuilt into the Japanese style. Okay, so this is the other example of homeowner-driven cultural heritage on residential building. The locus is in Padang, Kota Lama. I've done the survey on 83 houses. Most of them are shop houses and also warehouse. Old Town District in Padang has functioned as trading center initiated in Dutch colony since 16th century. So this is very, usually it has a very agglomeration of vernacular and colonial styles. And it mostly is shop houses and office and also warehouse and residential houses. And this is the map of the area. We did the survey on this brown part of the area. And similar to the in Kota Gede, most of the buildings are heavily damaged by the earthquake. And this is one of the type of the shop houses. Usually they have the arcade, and the upper part of the arcade is the veranda. And they have the living space behind the shop or welcoming room or reception room. And they have inner court inside, and they have toilet and bathroom at the back of the side of back side of the building lot. Most of the building are 2 stories building. Nowadays it functions as shop house, and also office, and also warehouse. And this is the result of the homeowner-driven heritage recovery. As the additional information that previously this area is the center of trading. So most of the building is function as shop, but nowadays the owner is no longer most of the owner is no longer live in those building. The owner, most of the owner rent the building to other people. So most of the people who is impacted by the earthquake is not the homeowner, it's the people who rent the building. And we can see the shop house, and we divide the survey into 3 parts because we have 3 main part of this type of house. And I divide the part of the house is the building facade, the roof, and the wall. And we can see that the most of the people not doing the rehabilitation. The black one is not doing rehabilitation, and the white one of the surveyed building is they do the rehabilitation. And we can see that on the facade, 71% facade, roof, and wall, facade and roof is not doing the rehabilitation after the earthquake. But for the shop is basically the roof is not they don't do the rehabilitation after the earthquake. And after the questionnaire survey, we understand that why you don't recover the roof. They said that the roof is very weak due to the earthquake, and they got trauma from the earthquake, so they don't want to rebuild the roof as previous condition. We know that the the colonial building has a very high roof and very heavy material at the top of the building. Some of the people exchange the roof they lower the height of the roof and they change the material of the roof into the zinc board. So this kind of changes is unavoidable when we don't have the proper database on the building, and also if we don't have the framework of cultural heritage recovery, it is very difficult to recover the houses back to the previous condition. Okay, what kind of part of the building is become the concern of the people who live in? Most of the people is recover the wall, but not the facade and not the roof. Is maybe it because the wall is really closely related to the living space. So the living space, they need the living space even after the earthquake, they need the living space. They need to recover the living space. But they can also choose which kind of living space they need. And the prior from the interview, we understand that most of the building who function as house, they no longer, because the change of the family member, previously they have extended family living in one house in this kind of house, like they live with the grandparents and they live with the grandchildren. So they use the first and the second floor in previous days, but nowadays they only leave the nuclear family, the core family member only live in this kind of house. This house is very big, so they preferably live in the first floor of the house. So mostly at the first floor of the house, they do the recovery of the wall, but not in the second floor of the house. Okay, so this is the Rehabilitation Act of the building in Padang. Prior the earthquake, before the earthquake, they have already changed the door into the shutter door. The reason is the shutter door is more user-friendly instead of the wood door that we need to have a wood door move from the door every day, and it's very not user-friendly. And also mainly they do painting or tiling or give the tile to the wood to the wall. And also they also add the partition and adding bathroom. And also adding the reinforced column or concrete. Okay, some of them are also replastering the building. But from the survey, we know that most of the houses not experience the retrofitting or the structural retrofitting prior to earthquake. And this is the changes of the building prior to earthquake. Most of them are doing the beautification. So it's not really related to the building retrofitting or building strength. And although the same building users were willing to do rehabilitation, especially on facade and wall, it showed less rehabilitation in compare with the building owner. So this is the graph show the different rehabilitation that has been done by the building owner and the rented the people who rent the building. The black is show that they don't do any rehabilitation act, and the pattern one is show that they do the rehabilitation act. We can see that at the facade, the rehabilitation act is mostly done by the owner of the building, but the people who rent the house, they usually don't want to recover the building after the earthquake. It is understandable because the the lesser sense of belonging from the people who rent the building. It's not my building, so why do I need to rebuild the facade or rebuild the recovery after the earthquake? Okay, so from those cases, we understand that there is no framework of recovery, and also clearing debris after the earthquake also contribute the loss of cultural heritage assets. And also they also adapt the present needs of living activity, and also the changes of family member give also influence to the recovery process. And the following is the tangible recovery program led by the community. Also, I took some cases in Padang. Maybe not all of the cases I will present this time. During the survey, I took several cases such as Sihin Kyong Shrine. This is heavily damaged by the earthquake, and Hotetong Community Building, Hin Bentong Community Building, Family Clan Building, Mosque, Muhammadan Mosque is Indian style, Gujarat style mosque in Padang, and Gantiang Mosque. They apply a very different framework of recovery. This is the sample of Chinese association building before and after the recovery. Before, prior the earthquake is on the left, and the center is right after the earthquake, and the right part is the after the recovery. Basically, the Chinese Funeral Association and Clan Association, they have a lot of funding support from the members. So they do the recovery process is very quick. Prior the recovery, because they have a lot of money, even they maintain the facade of the building. If we enter the building, from the street, we can see that this is 2 stories building, but luckily that I can go inside the building, and it's actually 4 stories building, and at the top of the floor they have a golden shrine. It's very beautiful, and surprisingly they have also elevator inside the building. It's not actually, they're not do something wrong about the conservation, because in this area they only have to conserve the facade of the building. It's written in the decree. So because previously they mostly do a lot of retrofitting in the building. During the earthquake, it's only light damage and also crack in the building, so it's easily recovered after the recovery. And the family clan building also do the same, because they have a lot of funding support, so it is very easy for them to recover the building. And they also apply the tilting sun doctrine. So from the street, you can only see 2 stories building, but the building is higher at the back side of the building. And this is very interesting one. We can discuss more about the cultural conservation. This is Sihin Kyong Shrine. The shrine is like maybe 150 years old, and it's heavily damaged by the earthquake. And previously the Sihinkyong Shrine is built facing the river, and but because of they have believed that when the shrine is damaged, it's not possible. It's not. It will be a bad luck if we rebuild the Sihinkyong Shrine in the same place. So they moved the place, the place of Sihinkyong Shrine nearby, but not at the same area, not at the same original building lot. And they said it conserving our beliefs because they believe that it will give a bad luck if we rebuild the shrine in the damaged area. So we cannot rebuild the shrine. And also, they develop very unique framework on recovery. They contact their Chinese ancestor. They do the literature research about where the Sihinkyong Shrine came from the China mainland. So they contacting the people in the mainland, and they asking the style of the shrine, and the ancestors give some information, and also they support with the skillful masons, and the masons are all from China, all from China, so they can rebuild the new shrine, Sihinkyong Shrine, in the new area, in a tradition. Even though it's new and it's not preserving the old one, because the old one is now is been neglected. And networking to the ancestor is the way to conserve the tradition and building style, even though it's not conserving the building itself. So this is we can discuss more about what kind of thing that should be conserved. Is that the physical thing, or is that the tangible thing, or intangible thing, or both of both we need to conserve both. But in the case of Sihinkyong Shrine, it is not possible to conserve both because it very opposite to their beliefs. And this is the case of Catholic monastery recovery after the earthquake. You can see this very beautiful church, and a lot of people took the picture of the church at the front of the church. And during the recovery, it is very difficult to do the recovery because the earthquake give damage to the back part of the church. So there is no proper picture that we can see. We can reconstruct the back part of the church. So after the recovery, on the rainy season, the water leak inside the church because maybe it's not the same structure as previous one. So the good documentation in all of the building is very important, not only the front of the building, because sometimes the damage is not only at the front of the building, but also at the back of the building. This Catholic monastery recovery or rehabilitation is engaging the university. So the university also concerned about the safety of the building because they will use the building in the future by a lot of people. So they also add the, oh, no picture in it. They also add the, this one, the retrofitting, like they use the technique of jacketing. so that it gives the more stronger structure to the church. But maybe if we can see the left part and the right part, we can see that the right part after the recovery is a little bit thicker than its original one. Okay, so from these cases, we understand that we have a lot of option in recovery, especially after the massive damage such an earthquake. And it is very limited time to think about and to do the planning of the recovery after the disaster. In the case of natural disaster, it is very, very limited time. And those kind of limited time is very reflected in the privately owned cultural heritage building. And so this is our homework to think about how to recover the building even prior to disaster. We have some summary of the cases. This will be the last part of my presentation. And privately owned cultural heritage asset is a growing entities. We know that they're not living in vacuum area, that the area is also changes. The culture has changed, the family member changed, the availability of material also changed, and all of the changes, all of the constant changes, it leaves the footprint on cultural heritage asset. So this kind of thing that we have to think about prior the disaster and prior the in the normal condition, because after the disaster, the trigger to change the cultural heritage asset and adapt it into the something new is very intense in compare in the normal condition. So the other conclusion is how to treat the growing entities versus cultural heritage conservation. There's in residential district, the spatial changes or alteration mostly was triggered by inheritance system. Divide the houses into masses into the several, divide the houses into several houses, and it gives the physical changes inside each part of the Joglo houses. And they adapt the Joglo houses into their living activity needs. What kind of room that they need for the living, what kind of room that they need for commercial needs. And those kind of thing is reflected in the alteration before the earthquake. And at community building, the stronger community shows higher alterations. As I mentioned before, they add the elevator, they give the structural retrofitting, they add the floors of the buildings, and the other trigger also, they demand for better place for the community activity. And the intangible cultural heritage assets such as cultural heritage industry, I'm sorry, I don't present the intangible cultural heritage asset because maybe it's not quite related to the material conservation. It has a trend of losing popularity. The cultural heritage trend to lose the popularity among the youth. So it also challenge for us how to deliver this kind of cultural heritage asset to the next generation. And we can see that a new technique and new material is on the cultural heritage building recovery or restoration is very massive after the earthquake, after the massive damage of cultural heritage. Of course, the old material is very difficult, as I mentioned before in the first sample of restoration, that it is very difficult to get the same color, same thickness, same material. It needs the laboratory test to know what kind of ingredient and composition within one plaster thing. But those kind of process is impossible to be done by the homeowner itself. So the application and new technique, new material on cultural heritage building is kind of unavoidable in terms of the recovery after the earthquake. So this is also the challenge of the cultural heritage conservation of privately owned assets. And the other summary is that we know that we have a lot of time to think about what kind of framework that we can develop prior the natural disaster. And it is very important to think about it because we can have a more holistic approach instead of very spontaneous approach after the earthquake in the limited time, so that we can avoid the losing of cultural heritage asset after the earthquake. If we have all, and the hasty manner of the recovery also treat the lose or the loss of the cultural heritage asset. But the further tendency to apply general consideration on better recovery technique, such as retrofitting, using the reinforced concrete, adding the columns, and it is very massive after the earthquake because they also have some trauma after the earthquake, so that they learn from the earthquake and they adapt how they want to rebuild their house, their living space after the earthquake to minimize the effect of the natural disaster on their life. So retrofitting become one of the consideration that they do after the uh, earthquake and do the recovery. So this also gives some challenge, of course, for the cultural heritage asset because prior the earthquake, we don't have proper research how we can do the retrofitting, meanwhile also maintaining the cultural heritage asset conservation. And some kind of possibility of sustaining privately or community-owned cultural heritage asset that we can think about is first the disaster preparedness for cultural heritage asset. We can think about what kind of weakness that exists in the cultural heritage building. Cultural heritage building, of course, is vulnerable. It's old and the material is heavier than nowadays materials. And by doing the disaster preparedness or mitigation, we can also develop research how to strengthen the building without losing the soul as the cultural heritage. And the assessment of the asset before natural disaster is very important because sometimes the data is not sufficient for us to do the restoration, even though we want to do the restoration back to the previous condition. But without the proper data, it will be very difficult. And also strengthen the community framework on disaster recovery. With the conservation consideration, it is very important. In some case of the strong community, they sometimes leads the changes into something that really well adapt to their needs, not really reflecting the conservation aspect. So give the understanding to the society about the conservation and the conservation technique, and tell them that the conservation is not very complicated thing. You can use very simple, very least effort to maintain the conservation, and tell them the simple things, something like that is very important for giving them understanding on cultural heritage. And creating guidance on cultural heritage assets rehabilitation is very important. So if we don't have the guidance, of course it is unavoidable to have alteration of the cultural heritage asset. Okay, I think this is all of my presentation. I'm very welcome if you have some comments or questions. Thank you very much for your attention. Oh.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Nisha, for the excellent presentation. I would like to inform also that Ms. Khaerunnisa is Icomos representative or Icomos Indonesia representative that has already presented the young member of EPWG and explaining about the action plan of EPWG Indonesia. And to all the participants, just a minute. Masih keep.
Okay, we have a lot of, I think we have several questions in the chat.
Yes, from the schedule, we have more or less 30 minutes for discussion session. And also, as Ms. Nisa said, that we have several questions, probably about the restoration of the heritage monument or heritage building. And also, it was explained by Ms. Nisa about the restoration on the several heritage building in Indonesia during the quake, especially in Kota Gede, Yogyakarta. Have you visited, dear our participant? Have you visited Jogja? It's a very nice place to visit because it has also the 16th century palace of Islamic Kingdom of Mataram, and also been explained by Ms. Nisa about the architectural and the recovery after the quake. Ms. Nisa also explained the restoration in the West Sumatra, in Padang, in the colonial houses, also in the Catholic monastery, and then the shrine, the Hinking shrine, Hinkyong shrine in the West Sumatra. Okay, I will see the chat in this Zoom. There is a several question, but before I read the question from the chat of this morning Zoom meeting, is there anyone want to ask question straightforward in this Zoom meeting? Please open the mic and then please ask the question straight to Ms. Nisa, to all the participants. So is there anyone want to ask question, please open your mic and please directly ask the question to Ms. Nisa.
We have George.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
can I speak?
yeah, we have
Selamat,
Georgius.
selamat,
Okay.
selamat pagi.
Selamat siang. Selamat pagi.
Thank you very much. My congratulations for your very interesting presentation. I am chemist conservation scientist. I'm not an engineer or architect, but I am wooden technologist too. So I following my question yesterday by chat that I asked yesterday if they are entire wooden buildings in Indonesia. They answered me that in Indonesia, not like surrounding countries, around your country, there are many, one of the biggest wooden buildings in the world. They tell me in Indonesia, now they short small examples of these buildings. But looking your very interesting presentation, and I see that in the structures, you use so much wood because you are full of wood. Okay. My question, there are two types of question. One is, after the earthquake, okay, of 2006, do you see there was before the earthquake buildings with portable structures, columns, for example, make it from wood? If yeah, to compare these buildings with built with portable wooden columns and the other with concrete or stones or bricks or etc., with the wooden structures were more resistant to the earthquake. This is the first. Second question, and I finish. I see that in the reconstruction, you use so much reinforced concrete. In Europe too, okay, I live in Italy. In Europe too, we try now because it's, you know, that reinforced concrete, his life is maximum 50 years. Okay, why you don't use traditional materials like wood or other that you are full? Your country have many, these traditional materials. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to answer your question. Thank you very much for the question. Previously, we have a lot of woods, but nowadays those kind of good quality wood is very expensive in compare with the reinforced concrete. Oh, for the first question, the portable column, we call it pendopo. Theoretically, it's more resilient to the earthquake because it have a loose joint. But pendopo itself, it's in Kota Gede is like built like 150 years ago, and it's very heavy at the top part of the building, and most of the pendopo has collapsed after the earthquake. I don't know, maybe even the pendopo inside the palace has collapsed also, and it has deteriorated because they have a lot of bed inside the high roof, and maybe it a little bit rotten the wood, and yeah, it should be more resistant to the. But the good thing of pendopo, if it's collapsed, we can, as long as the joint is not broken, we can rejoin the wood itself. Then we can rebuild the pendopo as previous one. One challenge to rebuild the pendopo or rejoin the pendopo to the previous shape is the pendopo has very unique joint that the mason who built it give the code in the wood, and it is really difficult to read over the 150 time after 150 years. to understand which part of this place should be joined to what part, because we don't have the proper database of where is the part of which part, something like that. And it is because previously I studied in Japan, I had experience to visit the restoration of a castle. It is very different because they name the wood one by one, and they reach. It is very easy to rejoin the wood if we have proper data, but because the earthquake comes very suddenly, we don't have proper data. We have proper data on the Joglo houses plan, but we don't have proper data on like detailed data, which kind of where should be about the joint itself. So it was very difficult. It needs the Japanese house expert to read the code or that is written in the wood. And the second one is why don't we use wood? Because yeah, it's very expensive to use wood nowadays. Usually we use jati or teak wood. The teak wood itself is need to be invested 25 years to achieve the proper diameter for the column. So it is very expensive and not not really available in the market nowadays, because the good quality of teak wood is it's very expensive. So they mostly change to reinforced concrete. It's cheap and it's a common technique that can be learned by almost anyone. I hope that answer your question.
Okay, terima kasih.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Nisa. And I see this in this Zoom, I see Harpreet Tandai. Yeah, you also mentioned in your chat, but before maybe I ask Ms. Nisa to answer to your question, maybe you want to be online, or please say your question straightforward to Ms. Nisa, please. To Harpreet Tandai. Please stay straightforward to ask question to Ms. Nisa. Yeah. Open your mic. Yes. Okay, please.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor, for your presentation. I enjoyed it a lot, seeing all this case study from Indonesia. So my question was, you have showed several case studies of restoration and recovery of the buildings. And could you please discuss more about the ethic behind these restoration projects? I mean, how important is the original materials? And when you're about to start a restoration project, how do you deal with the original material? Do you think to reuse it? Do you go for some new material? How do you solve this issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Actually, we have the law number 11 on 2010 about the restoration, and basically we should follow those law. But as my understanding that sometimes we have limitation in budget, and also we have also limitation in time, and we have also limitation in research, so that sometimes we choose the other alternative to do the restoration. In my understanding, they have several types of restoration. If I give one case in Japan. In the case of Japan, the first, if they can maintain the material and also the technique and maintaining the shape, they choose, and it is safe for the people who live inside, they choose the first the first option. And if it's not, they engage the university to do the laboratory experiment, whether the weakness is come from the material or weakness is come from the joint, or the technique of welding, or etc. And if it's not possible and it give a risk to the people who live inside, then they choose the lesser option, the second choice or the third choice. If the two option is not possible, they only do the imitation. But basically in Indonesia, we also have to follow the same. If it's possible, we use the possible means under the timely manner and also the budgeting, and we try to use the original material. But yeah, sometimes the limitation is happen in the project, so the option can be various based on the availability of material and also the timeline.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Harpreet, maybe it's clear to you. Thank you very much. And the next, I will invite to ask question, especially for the participant from Indonesia. Is there anyone from Indonesia who wants to ask question for Ms. Nisa? I will give the time. In the chat, there is Mr. Dion Eko Prihandono. Dion Eko Prihandono, please, if you are online, please straightforward asking question for Ms. Nisa.
Hello, good morning, Ms. Nisa. That is interesting presentation. Yes. I want to ask a question. How is your strategy to solve conservation costs and fund available? Meanwhile, the originality of cultural heritage building must be archived in conservation. What's your opinion, and please explain to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very, very tough question because I believe there is no one medicine for all the disease or one recipe for all the cases. It is very, very related to the background and the condition of cultural heritage. But I believe that the assessment of the homeowner is take the very important role for keeping the cost of conservation is lower. I would like to explain more. Like when the homeowner can do the assessment by themselves and do the rehabilitation based on the guidance that should be provided by an expert, little by little, so it will be like kind of investment of retrofitting and also cultural heritage conservation. So we cannot, so we don't have to pay the cost of conservation at one time, but we can little by little do the conservation in like over the time. And it also happened in one case in Japan that they do the assessment by the homeowner, and in the maybe in Indonesia is like kelurahan in the municipality level, but the municipality in Japan is very, very small, like kelurahan. In municipality level, they have the architect and heritage expert and also the local leaders, and those three elements of the experts, and they make the approach to the society and they explain how to do the assessment of your own building and how, because the assessment of the building take important role in the time of disaster. So by the time of disaster, when they do the close assessment and they look carefully what kind of damage of the building, they can repair it prior to disaster, so it avoid the heavily damage of the house. So those kind of 3-in-1 expert to give the local point of view and also the expert point of view and also judgment, and they make it the very simple guidance that can be give to the people. It's very important for them to lowering the cost of maybe not lowering, but we can divide the cost of the recovery or restoration, not in one time, but gradually we pay the cost. And it also raising awareness because the people, we ask the people to take a good look of their house, take a good care of their house prior the disaster. Maybe it's not really answer your question, but that's only thing that I can thought.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Nisa, for the excellent answer. Yeah, as we know in Indonesia, as also Ms. Nisa has already know, conservation is a high cost of the project, and also Ms. Nisa also highlight the share cost for the conservation project. Also, it has mentioned by Ms. Nisa, there is a cooperation between the government and the expert in Indonesia. And then I will invite next question. I don't know, maybe in this chat, could I invite Gwen Jenkins? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Please.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Good morning to everybody, or good evening. Really interesting. And I'd like to ask a question about the new build for the Sihin Tiong Shrine in Padang. Whether they rescued some of the bricks and timbers, etc., from the old shrine when they rebuilt it, or was everything brand new? We also in Malaysia, we get experts from China as well for our temple work. And they are expert in lime plastering, etc., and particularly the timber work too. So I'm just wondering what actually went on with your, the one in Padang. Thank you.
Okay, based on the interview to the Sihin Tiong Shrine leader, they don't bring any rubble or wood from Sihin Tiong Shrine because they believe it will give a bad luck to the new shrine. So it only all new materials. But the technique is, they claim the technique is original, is the same technique that applied in Sihin Tiong Shrine.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nisa. And also in Indonesia, also have the plenty of shrine, ancient shrine from the era of the colonialization, and also in the Islam era during 15th and 16th century in Indonesia. And also Indonesia is very rich with the architectural building from the 18th century until 19th century during the colonialization. This include the shrine or the Chinese temple. And then next question, please. Straightforward as question to Ms. Nisa or from Chen Wu Wei. Do I have Chen Wu Wei online here in this session?
Yes. Yeah, I actually have similar question as Green, and it's perfectly answered. So thank you very much. And I would like to know more about the background of that project. For example, is it government run or is
Okay, in the case of Sihin Shrine recovery, it's led by the leader and the community of the Sihin Shrine. It's not because the government themselves, they want to rebuild the Sihin Shrine in the original place, but actually there is a different point of view, that because they have to, the Sihin Shrine community need to maintain their beliefs about how they choose the site of the to rebuild the Sihin Shrine, not in the original one, because it's very opposite to their belief to rebuild the Sihin Shrine in the damaged area. And the government itself, they have an idea. So okay, so what if the old Sihin Shrine is become the commemoration place or the monuments, and meanwhile they built the new shrine in front of the Sihin Shrine. And yeah, basically the community itself will only focus on the new Sihin Shrine, and I don't know nowadays, but by the time I went there, the Sihin Shrine is still in the same condition after the disaster, not really taking care or take down the rubble. It's a little bit dangerous to enter the site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nisa, for the excellent answer. And then I also, in this discussion session, not always the question as from the participant to Ms. Nisa, but maybe any one of you has the new method of conservation material or the restoration method and technique. If you want to share with us how to restore it, maybe the timber construction to maintain the originality or etc. Maybe not only timber construction, maybe the plaster. How is the plaster, and then how to maintain the originality? Because now also in Borobudur Conservation Office, we have several laboratories. Once there is a restoration from the Cultural Heritage Office, maybe in Sumatra, in Jawa, or Kalimantan, or Borneo, in Maluku, we have sample, plaster sample, timber sample, and maybe brick sample, and we have to assess and then to formulate the composition of the original material. But we have known that it is very, very difficult, as Ms. Nisa said, the composition, whether if it's in the laboratory and we make the composition now in the modern time using the consultant to make the new material. Sometimes it was different from the original. So is there anyone want to discuss, or maybe we continue the question? If we want to discuss about the originality, the material, or maybe the modern technique of conservation, please share in this session. Okay, anyone wants to share? If it is now, I will continue for the discussion, and I will invite Dina S in the chat. Dina S, is there?
Okay.
Dina S, okay, please.
Yeah, I think the essence of my question is the same as Harpreet's question, and it was already answered earlier. So thank you for the answer, Bu Nisa.
Oh, the same. Oh, I can see your video. It's black. I
Yeah,
cannot see.
my connection is poor.
Okay. Okay. Straightforward. I would like to continue for the next question. I will invite Sheila Ayu Rahmadina.
Hello.
Sheila Ayu Rahmadina. Yes, please,
Is my
Sheila.
voice clear?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Ms. Nisa. Maybe my question was generally answered in the presentation slide, but I would like to know a specific insight from Ms. Nisa. Based on the several cases in Indonesia, we can see that we usually rely on the community and the owner or donors to recover the damaged building because of the limited funds and human resources. I would like to know how to increase the sense of belonging of the community involved, and how is the strategy to maintain the heritage authenticity. And the last question is, have the expert and government already developed any guidance in conservation that the community or people can follow? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very complicated and very good question to be answered, but unfortunately I don't have the answer because it's very yeah, the raising awareness is very interesting among the community. There are so the good, it is, I think it will be better if we can have a menu of option in raising the wait a minute. Okay, raising the awareness of the community. One case in Kanazawa, Japan, is they try to engage the young elementary student to more concerned about the heritage by making the pottery, because Kanazawa is very famous of pottery. They make the pottery by themselves, and they write the name of the street, and they put those kind of plate in the street. So this kind of thing that this kind of strategy has been done in Kanazawa to raise the awareness. One other, yeah, we can learn from the other country as well. I think it will be very glad if it will be very good if we can have menu of option. First, if we have menu of option, we don't need to do the same vulnerability. And the second is we have option in engaging more people in cultural heritage conservation. Of course, a lot of cases also they're raising the awareness by creating events, and also some of them also engaging the artists to work in the cultural area. It also delivered in Kanazawa. One other thing is, I'm sorry, I have a lot of cases in Japan because most of my study time is studying about the cases of revitalization of the cultural, commercial historical area in Japan. And one other case also delivered in Kurokabe glass. Those kind of building will be demolished like 20 years ago, and it's a very historical building, but it will be replaced by a mall, a shopping mall. Then the local leaders try to engage the local people to raise their opinion to the government, and they make the new product that is not originally from that place. It's a very, very new product, and we call it a Kurokabe glass. It's a craft that is not originally from that place. It's very new craft. And they targeted very carefully. They targeted the mother and the children. They make very cute glass craft, and they do the promotion, and after 20 years, it become very popular that the Kurokabe glass is very popular while maintaining the Kurokabe building. And those kind of option also possible to be done in the raising awareness. So we can, I think, because most of the young thought, very fresh thought is very different from the senior one. I think it will be very welcome if you can also contribute some idea how we engage more, especially younger generation, to care about the cultural heritage. And about the, what other thing? Yeah, that kind of sense of belonging that need to be increased in the community. I think a more creative strategy is more acceptable in the nowadays era. Maybe engaging with the virtual reality or with the augmented reality. I think it's also raised the awareness. I think also the exposure is need to be more intense, because sometimes it's neglected, because the cultural heritage asset is already there for long time ago, and it's kind of usual thing that we can see everywhere every day. Then we, because it's kind of ordinary and we used to the existing of the building, then kind of there's a tendency of neglected. But if we give some intervention that is not endanger the cultural heritage, such as lighting, virtual reality, augmented reality, games. And in Japan, they do stemplery. They collect the stamp and they get the prize. And it's very interesting, even for adult like me. And it's a very simple one, like a postcard or the dice, something like that. Yeah, I think creative intervention that is not endangered the cultural heritage will be very, very good promotion to raise the sense of belonging and awareness.
Thank you, Miss Nisa. Maybe to Sheila, there is the answer of your question. And then the next question or the next discussion is this very interesting. This is Miss Nisa. Maybe this case is in Indonesia. From the question, from the discussion, from the audio, I don't know it is the name of the person or only the name. And the case, it will be the heritage building in the military facility. Sometimes we have in the case in Kalimantan, there is heritage building, but in the complex of military facility, of course, we have to follow the protocol of military facility there. So maybe the question is about how is the middle ground of agreement between conservation and protection of heritage building with other regulation. So maybe it is more some question how to manage it, and this is actually the case maybe from Indonesia, and I don't know, maybe in another country it is the same or not. But sometime in the case the military want to add some room, want to add some facility in the heritage building. I don't know what is the protocol, or is there any case study from you which was has more experience to restore the building or heritage building, maybe in military, if you have some experience.
Okay, I don't have a good case about the military building, but I have experience when we visit Palembang. There is a big military building that we would like to enter. And I was stopped by the guard because it's a military building, but we want to see the inside because this is um, this is the cultural heritage and it's well preserved. And yeah, for the building that used by military, not the family of military, is relatively in a good condition, I believe. I don't know about the inside because it's very secret at that time, and we cannot even look at the yard in the area. But when we went to to the housing that is also the same old as the fort, there are a lot of changes. It more welcome. We can enter the houses, but yeah, it's unavoidable. Something that related to the living place is changed a lot. And also, we have also a conflict. We know in Indonesia we have a conflict that the retired military family. It's difficult to move to other place. They have like a sense of belonging to live in that place because they have already lived in that place for very long time. And yet those kind of sentiments give us a little bit difficulty to give question. But luckily, I went there with my colleagues from Japan, so they know that I'm not from the government, and they know that we're not related to those kind of issue, and they welcome us. And most of them are yeah, but the military housing complex is mostly changed only by using the temporary divider. They make some rooms, but using the temporary dividers. So it's not really give a lot of physical changes to the building itself. I think that's a good point that we can make an assessment, and also we can find the kind of win-win solution for the people who live inside, and also for the conservation aspect. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good condition, even in Padang, in Palembang, in Bengkulu also, they were relatively in a good condition. I'm not really, I didn't really look at the inside of the military building, like the office building, but the housing complex is really in a good condition, except they paint the color blue or green. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Nisa. Maybe this is the last discussion in this afternoon. It is about the policy or management of the heritage building. And I would like to invite Jan Emmanuel de Guzman. Are you online? Jan Emmanuel de Guzman, maybe want to explain the experience about the policy and management of heritage building. Okay, are you online? Jan Emmanuel de Guzman. Guzman? No? No, okay. If there were no, the last question will be from Ari Sulistyo. Please, Ari Sulistyo.
Yeah, Ibu Nisa, can you hear me? Yeah, everybody. Okay, I'm sorry, my internet unstable. I think already asked by Miss Sheila before, that's community and the owner of the building, and based on your experience, how to manage the gap between the owner ego, and then the revitalization regulation or the procedure itself, and how to manage between the gap. Also, okay, I have a building, heritage building. I will make over by my own, so it's not based on your judgment. So, and how to manage the gap. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Managing the gap is a very difficult one. I have one case that they use the force of the community to maintain the awareness of cultural heritage. In Japan, they have like a one fishing, is that fishing? Fishing settlement that is not quite old, so it can be categorized into national level cultural heritage. So it's only local level heritage. So the government themselves give the expert judgment, and also local leader that maybe I have already mentioned it before. They planted inside the municipality, and those three entities, they try to discuss how to raising awareness. First, they they ask the people. They use they 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 use the gaps of the people of doing renovation. Like in Japan, they have a regulation that they have to renovate their building every 15 years. So this is the only case where the, the modern building change into the traditional buildings. And in that area, they make a group of people that have a concern in cultural heritage conservation, and then some of the building that has been modified. Actually, all of the building is the the traditional building, like the old building, and every 15 years they have to modify, because it's kind of written in the regulation of the government. And then by the time of they doing regulation, they do the approach, these entities, these three, the expert, the government, and also the local leader, and also the group of people who concern the cultural heritage recovery. They say it's onengai. Onengai means begging. They beg the homeowner to give some concern of the cultural heritage. So if you want to make a building, we can support with the plan that is aligned with cultural heritage conservation. So as a result, some of the building that have to be renovated by that time, the government support with the housing plan, and also they use the traditional material and technique, the same technique that was used in all the area. And then nowadays, because of the age of the wood become black. But at the first place, the wood is like natural, like other natural wood, like the light brown. And then I asked them, why don't you paint the wood into black? Because the black is come from natural process. So if we want to maintain the conservation of this kind of building, we have to follow the process. And that's very interesting, because the group of people that support by the technical assistance by the expert can can raise the awareness of the people who originally didn't want to rebuild the house into the old style of house. This kind of communication between the expert, the government, the positive communication between them can result in a positive way for cultural heritage. heritage. I think I can only give those kind of example because yeah, managing the gap is very difficult. It needs the investment of time, the investment of effort, and very consistent. We cannot shorten or closing the gaps only one act, but it needs a very positive attitude. It needs a very persistent and also consistency in in advocating the people. I think that's that I can answer. I hope it meet your question.
Thank you, Ms. Nisa, for the excellent answer. Maybe it's the last question and then the last answer by Ms. Nisa and the question from Ms. Aris Lestio. Maybe it is clear to all. And then looking at the schedule, this morning till afternoon, we have to end this magnificent presentation, excellent presentation from Ms. Nisa and the magnificent question from all the participants. We have to end this session, international process, in this morning with the title or the theme. The theme for this morning until afternoon is Icomos Emerging Professional Working Group and Material Conservation. And also thank you very much, especially for Ms. Nisa for the excellent presentation and
Thank
the
you very
excellent
much for
answer.
having me.
And also to all the participants for your question and discussion. And the last, thank you for the committee who arranged this meeting, this morning until afternoon meeting. And then I hope this presentation and discussion give us the broad image of the conservation and also the restoration of heritage building, not only in Indonesia, but also in the world. And I would like to say sorry if I have wrong species, or maybe for this morning and then afternoon moderator for this session, I would like to say sorry, and then thank you to all the participants, and thank you again to Ms. Nisa. I will end this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Hari, Ibu Nisa, for the excellent presentation, and also to all participants. You are very, very active, and thank you very much. So we will meet again at 1. So please to have lunch for Indonesian and maybe friend from Malaysia and also Thailand to have lunch, and then we will meet again at 1. I have one announcement because yesterday there's a participant asked me about the recording of this event. So I'd like to inform you that the recording of this event will available on YouTube channel. So please to open the YouTube channel of Konservasi Borobudur, and you will find the recording of this all session. The first session from Mr. Abi now is available, so you can check at the YouTube channel of Bali Konservasi. So please to learn from it. Okay, so thank you very much again to Mas Hari, Ibu Nisa, and all participants. We will see you at 1. So thank you, and give a big applause to Ibu Nisa and all of us.
Thank you very much.
See you at 1. Thank you, Ibu Nisa.